Hello and welcome to this session. I'm Ginny Buckley and I'm joined by Istvan Kapitani, Global EVP of Shell Mobility, and Frank Willon, CEO of ABB E-mobility, for a discussion about some of the challenges that surround EV ownership and also how we accelerate the pace of EV adoption. So hello to both of you. Good afternoon to Frank. Good afternoon, Istvan.
Good afternoon, Ginny.
I think we've got a bit of delay, as is always the way with technology. Frank, I don't know how you go on running a technology company. I really don't.
It's a daily challenge, but we love it.
It is. Look, there's a partnership being announced between your two brands today. Let's kick this session off, Frank, with just a bit of the background and the context to that, please.
Yeah, I mean, Shell and ABB, we're collaborating since a while, and why is that? It's because the whole industry has to collaborate, right? We believe in the power of together, and we work along a whole value chain of between automotive OEMs, between operators and site providers, and between software and hardware to supply. And so in this value chain, it's quite a very good match between Shell and us to really collaborate well, and we want to bring that now to the next level.
Okay, and tell me some of the details about this partnership. Istvan, there's been a big announcement today. Do you want to just fill us in on some of those details?
Yeah, so we actually have done a global frame agreement, which we renewed a while ago, and now we will execute on this with our latest technology and portfolio addition, the world's fastest charger, as we say, the T360. But I think we can elaborate on that later on more. And so we will use now this charger to support Shell in the rollout ambition in Germany to bring to the 1.7 million EV drivers we have in Germany more fast charging on sites they know, and really with that collaboration help the transition to EV to even accelerate more.
Okay, so Istvan, this is the world's fastest charger. It's going to be in Germany initially, and then will it be rolled out globally?
Yeah, it will be as Frank said. The relationship between our companies, clearly ABB is a world-leading technology company, is for many decades, and in different parts of our organization, we have enough time to go into all the great histories we had. But the future is even brighter, because where we are totally committed is the new mobility future, which is going to be big time EV charging, electric vehicles. And one of the things what I think Shell and ABB can bring to the table is global scale, and not many companies have that. We are with our activities, mobility activities, in 80 countries, serving 400 million customers every day, 30 million customers. By far the biggest mobility network, where we are providing customers with really good services with the traditional fuels and convenience stores. We like to be the undisputed number one in the e-mobility area as well for the customers, for the B2C customers out there, particularly. And ABB is a very critical partner for us. We had a global framework agreement before. We have a new one. Without going into details, is a far bigger one, of course, obviously for us, for EV chargers, because our ambition is to get to 500,000 chargers by 2025 and 2.5 million chargers by 2030, and we need very high quality, reliable, modern technology. And Terra 360, the fastest indeed. So we like that. We are with Ferrari, we are with Nissan e-Dams and Mahindra in the Formula E. We like to be the fastest. It's great to have from ABB the fastest EV charger in the world. And Germany is such a key market for us, where we're going to be introducing this nationwide 200 EV chargers, and clearly we're going to be going to critical markets afterwards, and it will be available for customers globally, I guess, in the future, almost everywhere.
Okay. And just thanks for that update there, Ishvan. But to everyone watching as well, I'm going to pose questions to both of these two, but please do send in your questions as well. You can do that through the portal, and I can put those today to Frank and Istvan. And I think just one of the points that's coming in that's interesting is that what place does this 360 kilowatt Terra 360, it's super fast charging, what place does it play currently when so few cars can actually charge at those rates?
Yeah, now that's a very good question, and then that's obviously a question from someone understanding the industry quite well. Yeah? So what we have today is indeed very few cars which can charge at or beyond even 300 kW. I think the fastest one right now are more around 270 or whatever. But now look, it's a couple of questions which need to be addressed here. First of all, when we look back just a few years, the charging capabilities, they have been somewhere around 50 kilowatt. So 50 kilowatt was a fast charger. And then that's just like 5 years back. And we see now in a lot of cases that 50 kilowatt chargers are replaced by chargers of 175 or 350 or 360 because of the need for speed. So if we go out for an installation now and say, oh, look, I mean, the majority can only do 150 or 270 now, so why should I go higher? Yeah, that this is the answer. The technology will not stop. Technology will continue. On the other hand, we need to look and respect, of course, the investment to be made, so that this is not an investment for only to pay back like in a long time or when technology catches up, but per immediate. And for that reason, the magic word here is power sharing. So the 360 can be given to one vehicle, okay. But in fact, there is not too many which can take this. So much more important is how can you share this power? And like the way we can share it is you can share it to 2 times 180, for example. And 180, that sounds very familiar with a lot of cars which have already 150, 160 in that range. So 180 is a nice number to have, times 2. Or you can even say, yeah, if the occupation is much higher, so instead of having 2 cars charging and another 2 waiting, why not share amongst 4 and everyone gets a little bit of the juice available? And you can go to 4 times 90, for example. I mean, all of this is possible, and I think that is the beauty of this charging technology, that you can really do a power sharing and a power split like this.
Okay. And Istvan, I guess as we see increasing numbers of electric vehicles on our roads, and we're starting to see this strange phenomena, which is people waiting to charge their cars and queuing for them. How important is this ability for power sharing for you as a retailer?
Yeah, it is like magic, of course, because indeed it gives you optionality and flexibility in operations, which we need. Not all the sites will be very busy at the beginning. Not all the cars can take the 360, but it will change. And I agree with Frank, is that there's no doubt in my mind that more and more cars will be able to take very fast, extra fast, ultra fast charging, because this is time. And the 360 Terra can do almost a full charge in around 15 minutes, which is getting very close to a normal fill up. If you think about this on a motorway site, you fill up your car, you go into a store, you walk around, you have a cup of coffee, you relax a little bit, and you go. This charger gives us also optionality in our network. Not every location would need 360. You have destination locations where people stay longer, and therefore you can go for a smaller capacity. 50 kilowatt hour would be at this stage. That could also go up. And of course, we have the full range in our business. We have home chargers, and today in this Shell Technology Center in Hamburg, you've seen the range from lamppost charging, let's call it that way. Shell Electricity does in London, and it's coming in Berlin, 3.7 to 5 kilowatt, going up to 360. So it gives again optionality. You have to have a mosaic of solutions for different, we call it customer journeys. So if you are sleeping at home, 3.7 kilowatt might do the job, because if you are there for 12 hours, you don't really worry about it. As you know, in the whole world, 95% of the cars, passenger cars, which are on the road, are stationary at any given time. So this is not necessarily changing, the ball game in that sense, that you can use this stationary time to charge slow at home from the lamppost. But when you are on the move, when you're going from A to B, and depend upon how far you go and how much time you have, you need to give the optionality, and that is what I think ABB is a tremendously good company to provide this range of charging opportunities for us.
It's a debate that we can have for hours, isn't it? And there's an interesting question coming here, which is destination charging, all these very fast, rapid chargers, the 360 kilowatts. Which is the answer? What speeds do you need and where? And I guess what you both might say on this might differ. I don't know, Frank, where do you stand on this? Which is going to win out? Is it a mix of both?
Yeah, I mean, you don't get the answer from me because ABB is doing more DC fast chargers, so we're pushing for DC. So that's not the answer you will get. So we actually do both, and it's good like this. I mean, we even entered the slow charging, AC charging, only 2019. And then why did we do this? Because we believe we need both. Right? We cannot just go with one, because you have different use cases, and you need to follow the use case and the pattern. So when you're at home and you can simply plugging in your car and charge, if you have the opportunity, great. When you have a street where you can do street side parking, great, and charging street side charging, great, right? Do it. But when you go on a longer trip and you extend the range of your vehicle, you want to reduce the time you wait and you stand till you're charged. So you want to have that in a nice environment. So that's good. So Shell will look for that, and we also want to do that fast. Yeah? So you don't go for the intermediate stop because you want to visit the intermediate stop. You want to have a nice experience there, but you want to also leave as fast as possible. So means at the end of the day, you need both, right? And the combination will do it. And now we were talking about private people here, but you also have different use cases, like the fleet use cases, right? And there's completely different needs. So you might have kind of this overnight charging, and then you might be good for the day, or you might need to have the requirement to charge on the route, because again, your range exceeds what the battery can do. And then again, this is particular cases, and you need a combination of slow and fast.
Yeah, Istvan, what are your thoughts on this? And also, how do you simplify this for the consumer, for the end user as well? Because this is really complex stuff, isn't it?
Well, you can see it as complex, or you can see it really accommodating the different kind of journeys. As I said, they are the same customers, but they have a very different customer journey, a different mission, what they are on. If you're sleeping at home, you really don't worry much about charging speed, particularly. Just think about your iPhone. By the morning it's charged. So if you start to charge your car at 7, you leave your home at 7. Most likely, you have 12 hours full charging. It can do a lot in that hour. So you don't need the fastest charging capability. Uh, as I said, when you are on the move, you really need to have the speed. Anything more than 15 minutes becomes really cumbersome for people. We hear it from customers when they have to plan the journey, and I know that Frank agrees with it. When you have a very busy motorway section with a 50 kilowatt hour charger or chargers, it can take a long time if people are queuing. Even if you have a queue management system, that could be a problem. So I think the future will be certainly at locations where you have high traffic, long distances. The faster the charger, the better it is, and therefore the car manufacturers will be trying to produce cars where the battery can take it, and also we are trying to be satisfy customers. Uh, it is far better when we get it right. So, Virginia, we all agree that currently the EV customers are struggling for a variety of reasons. They're not sure that the charger is working, or the payment is working, or how do I operate, who I talk to. Somebody's queuing up there. In our traditional business, 99.999% of the cases, the customer comes to a Shell service station, and there couldn't be a problem. So we're serving them, even if something is not going right, there's a personnel who is sorting it out. That's exactly the type of quality we need to achieve. If we achieve that in a more complex system, because of course you're working with engine manufacturers, the car has to be talking with the charger. You have a mobility service providing functionality with payment, loyalty opportunities, a charge post operation, all have to work. In this technology center where I'm sitting today with the local ABB general manager, we actually demonstrated the different kind of testings that we do together with ABB to make sure that it works in -20 and +40, because that's what we have, and it's a very important element. It works under any circumstances. But when we sorted this out as an industry and we see a big role for Shell to play in this, it will be an even nicer experience for customers, because it's not that I have to go to a service station to fill up. If it suits me, if it is a great experience for me, I go. If I have a great convenience store, I want to have a nice cup of coffee, there's a clean toilet, internet connection, and I'm on my road, I come there. But I can also charge at home. And I think for me as a marketeer, it is a better option for the customers in the longer run.
Yeah. We know, don't we, from consumers that the biggest blocker to making that switch into an electric car is charging. A third of consumers tell us that it's something that they find confusing, but also it is the reliability issue. I mean, Frank, what are you doing to really try and address this? Because it's important that people making this switch can have that confidence that their charging experience, as Istvan said, is going to be a successful one.
Yeah. So here I go back to the power of working together, right? Because when a charging experience is not as it should be, it's there's really multiple reasons for that. I mean, one can simply be that there is, let's say, the car has a problem, the charger can have a problem, or the other is the operator's backend can have a problem, or the communication between the three, or it can be a poor maintenance. I mean, there's multiple reasons. What we can do from a charger manufacturer's point of view is to make the charger as user friendly as possible, so that there is some logic how to work on the interface with the charger. We can work, of course, on the reliability of the product itself, so that this is very reliable. We work on how to, let's say, how sustainable it is against environmental influence. So if you have, for example, what does the exposure look like on the screens after a certain while? What is the exposure on the cables? Do they lie on the ground, or do they have a proper cable management system? What is the pulling force of that? Really things like this to make it user and consumer friendly, and to have the charger really reliable. And then beyond that, what we of course also need to work towards is a lot of the hassle you have today is also the amount of different networks. And so I think Shell Recharge, I mean, probably Istvan can talk about this, but has 250,000 and beyond charging opportunities. But still you drive into cities and want to charge there because you park there for a few hours, and then city XYZ has their own network and they're not connected with someone else, right? So they're not part of the recharge network, for example. They don't roam. That is a hassle for you as a driver, because then you need to sign up there and need to get that thing going. And so that, of course, is still also a certain barrier you're having when you really travel with the car. And also what we work on as an industry is making also the charging, let's say, the authorization process more seamless, right? Because when you come there and plug in, you start a communication process with the car, and then also with the back end, whether you're even authorized to charge there and how do you pay, how is the payment methodology. But if you have that done once on a back end and you're registered, and then you can do a plug and charge process or an auto charge process. So it means by plugging in, you automatically, the charger and the car communicate, okay, I know this guy, I know this car. That's the payment process behind, so you don't have to do anything. You plug in and walk away and it's charging. And that's then the most seamless process you can have. So we're working in that direction, absolutely.
Yeah, Istvan, there's a question just come through here just talking about this, how do you get that standardization of the experience of charging. So it is, as you said, as easy as filling up with petrol or diesel. But how do you get that in a global market that is changing so rapidly at different paces, so that whether you're in Berlin or Birmingham or, you know, wherever you are in the world, you're having that same experience?
Yeah, it's absolutely the right question, and that's the challenge we have. So that's the reason why we have the lab here, and we had the tour with the team before we talk with the journalists. And as we speak, currently they're doing different kind of tests for other countries than Germany, European countries, other European countries where we of course do have plants, and they try to be harmonizing all the things that we heard about from Frank. Make sure that the charger works with the particular system, software system, mobility provider system, which is different from country to country. We will try to, by the way, standardize, of course, in Shell because we do have the network all around the world, but we are able to control all these elements. For example, the CPO part and the MSP part in some markets, not everywhere. So therefore, we need to be making sure that those chargers are working with other softwares as well. We're working with car manufacturers, and we're working in different kind of countries. But one of the things which came to my mind when I listened to Frank and to you as well, you have to do this. We are at the beginning of the journey. We need to see how customers react and where they react to the different options. And that site we have in London, in Fulham, where we basically rebuilt the current service station basically in the city center or in the middle of London, with nine 175 kilowatt hour chargers, with a big convenience store, with a great little Waitrose smaller supermarket, with a great coffee shop. Uh, People are coming there because it's very simple for them to use. They understand that it is always available for them when they come. We even have a service champion there, a human being who is helping in the digital age. People love it. People are talking about in Fulham now about Clive like a national hero for them because he is always there if there is something that they need to sort out. And then, so interesting, in the digital world, you might need people to help out the other humans to get up to speed with this. Very easy to pay, so they can pay with share recharge, but they can pay with a credit card. Because one of the thing with this thing is it's so complicated for so many people around the world. Which app should I use? How do I pay? It is just too complicated to many people. Now the only way we can learn this if we put up propositions like Fulham, what customers can then see and appreciate. And therefore, now, for example, it is very clear for us that this, we call it an EV hub. This is now a concept in Shell that we will be replicating this not only just in the United Kingdom, but in many other markets, where it is a futuristic looking Shell service station without fuels. And customers quite like it. So it's very interesting. So a traditional model of a convenience store, a nice coffee shop, toilet, internet, with a great forecourt where you don't have to worry about the rain, have a service champion who explains modern technology, is attracting customers because the utilization rate of that site is 7 times higher than in the United Kingdom you normally get. So I think it's a learning phase, and I don't think that we know all the answers, but I think we need to be just learning it by operating all around the world. The speed is different. So we already launched EV charging in Oman. We already launched EV charging in Pakistan. I don't think that many other companies would be having a worldwide sort of coverage already like we have. And we learn because the challenges in Pakistan and in Oman, I tell you, it's very different than the challenges in Westminster.
Yeah, of course, and that's it. It's a global market, isn't it? It's great that you've talked about the Fulham site because I have had some questions in saying, what's the future of this? Will it be rolled out? So great to hear that that's working. I've been to that site, and Clyde, who's there, is absolutely brilliant. He holds your hand and takes you through the experience. But one of the things that is interesting about that site is that it's very accessible. You feel very safe there. And we've had a question in that talks about this. What about this question of accessibility at charging points? And that's something that in the past has often been forgotten, I think, from both of you, but from Frank as well. Are you consciously thinking about this now as you're developing the hardware? That is it accessible? Does it have some lighting so that people can? And I've been at charging points using the battery the torch on my mobile phone. Tell me, please, those days have gone.
So, Jeannie, let me quickly answer on that, and then it's much more a topic for Istvan actually. But
Yeah.
what we do from a manufacturer's point of view, and is really, you don't, hopefully you don't need your torch of your mobile phone for one of our chargers. So please, if that's ever the case, give me a ring. Yeah? So
Okay. I will.
we look for really, I mean, very user friendly, very easy to read displays. And the chargers themselves, I mean, they have, there's a couple of regulations out there in terms of accessibility, like accessibility by wheelchair is also a topic where
Yeah.
sometimes the displays are a bit lower than you would wish for, but that is the rationale behind. Sometimes this requirement is not there, so you make them a bit higher. But in general, is a trend in the industry. What we see is making the chargers themselves rather a bit taller. So footprint can be smaller but taller, so that you can see them from a distance. And when you see them from a distance, probably also have some indication with a light on availability from the distance. So when you steer to it, you know it's available or not. Or to give you an insight on the 360 kilowatt charger, which we have, if you have 4 charging ports, you can have 4 lights on the top showing availability where to go, and you have at the side you have LED strips which show the state of charge of the battery of the car. So if let's assume all 4 are busy, you need to line up where you want to line up. So better you line up behind the one who's already close to its 80% or wherever he stops, right? So that, I think that is going into that user friendliness. But what we also see is that the time of the past where you have to find the chargers at the site, drive behind the lorries in the rain and in the dark and try to find it, stand in the rain, try to operate it, and then have a problem, and then the lorry drivers come with their diesel hands and try to help you. I mean, these times hopefully have been passed, and that's exactly what now where I'd like to hand over to Istvan, where he can create a much different experience today. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
No,
accessibility, it's so important that everybody can come on this journey, isn't it, Istvan?
accessibility, but also the customers absolutely need to be uh, feeling that they are the most important customers on that service station. And what you, or on that location, whether it can be not the service station, anything. If it's hidden somewhere behind a building, and as you say, not very well illuminated, it is a very good
Yeah.
intention. One charger was put down, or 2 chargers were put down, but you can see that it's an afterthought, and customers just know it. It's very interesting. Yeah, it's like either you have a full bakery display cabinet, or you have a very half empty because you don't want to bake. Customers normally buy from the one which is full, not from the one which is basically getting empty. Same here. If they just know whether you're serious about it. So our reflection on our journey was that with my team, the mobility leadership team for the world, we decided, of course, that going forward, the minimum number of chargers we put down at a service station is 4 chargers, not less than 4 chargers, even if the demand is not there, just to demonstrate that this is a serious charging opportunity, to produce a canopy, a good-looking canopy that they are also defended from the different kind of weather conditions. And wherever it is possible in the future, we try to also be integrating, under the canopy. In some places it's possible because of regulations, in some places not, to bring it under the canopy, the charging experience, and to have a standard design. Uh, and by the way, go for a minimum. So in our case, a minimum, if it's a standalone EV hub or if it's a Shell service station, a minimum of 150 kilowatt hour chargers. It's also very important for people to be able to do this speedily. If it's an EV hub, so not at the current location, but we build something, the minimum we set is 20. So 20 chargers, not 3, not 5, minimum 20, if the location can do that. Where did we get this number, you might ask? We have a far more advanced operation on EV in China than what we have in Europe. In China now, we just took over a site in a part of a deal in Shenzhen where we have 250 EV
Wow.
chargers on a site. It's a public site. So we are charging there for passenger cars, but also for taxis and not Uber, but Didi, of course, which is the Uber equivalent in China, 250. And we see the reaction from the customers, because when you see a site with 20, 40, 60, 100 chargers, you realize that it's a serious business. You don't feel that it's a secondary part. You can then illuminate. You can have enough attention to this that it is feeling safe. So we really, that's our job, to adjust the infrastructure, which means quite a significant investment, and do this
Yeah.
investment safely. Because I like to emphasize that one of the biggest issue with this, that we need to be learning to operate this very safely. But this question is a very relevant question from the viewer, because that's the job which is cut out for us. That people really feel that they are the most important with their EV cars.
Now, I've only got you both for about 3 or 4 minutes, so I'm going to do some quick fire questions on this one. So if we try to keep our answers brief, and I'll try and get a few in. Quite a few questions have come in about plug and charge. What is the industry doing to make that a reality? Is that going to be part of the future? Frank, do you want to talk about plug and charge?
Yeah, it's not so much a thing of the future, probably the rollout, but plug and charge today is already reality. So
It's already
we
here,
have
but
plug.
the rollout, will it be
It's already here.
commonplace? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's a question of the rollout speed, I would say, but not a question of the technology itself anymore.
Yeah, sorry, my mistake. It is about the rollout. What do you see the rollout of that will happen? Will it become commonplace, do you think?
I think from a customer perspective, it's so convenient. I think customers will demand it.
Yeah. Istvan, plug and charge, where
Yeah,
do you
we
stand on
see the
that?
same. It's a big demand from the customers, from the engine manufacturers. We need to be making sure that these systems are working flawlessly with the different kind of software solutions. So it will be, I think, a standard offer in the network in the future. But it is again, when you're doing it in different countries, different cores, different kind of suppliers, you really need to make sure it works. So that therefore, Ginny, we had this session here in the technology center to show that
Yeah.
it is not that simple that you just plug it in different versions. You need to test them that it works. All the conditions are there. That's the job. But it will be a common feature. Yeah.
What about vehicle to grid? Where do you see that going, and how commonplace do you see that being? Is that part of the mix for you, Istvan?
So vehicle to grid will be big, I think, in the future. Again, in terms of priority that we do now with the mobility rollout, is not at the top of our priority. It will be very important going forward as you have far more vehicles, far bigger batteries, by the way. Because vehicle to grid is also assuming that the vehicle has a really sizable sort of battery, which makes sense. But I think if you ask me priority wise, is it the top of the list of my to-do list? Not just yet.
Okay, and an interesting one. What about buses, coaches, trucks? Of course, HGV, different needs for the commercial charging sector. What developments and what work is being done in that area? What's your focus on that from each of you?
Yeah. So when you look at that segment, it's buses, coaches already at play. So we have a lot of cities electrifying their public transportation. We then talk about charging depots with a couple of megawatt of charging power to charge the buses overnight. And we also talk about charging roadside at end stops to size the battery of the buses in a decent way. So that is already reality today. So there we are usually around 600 kW at end stops, so also different charging speeds again and higher numbers. So the next step is really long haul and transportation, where you have even larger batteries and need even higher speeds. So there we talk about the megawatt charging solution, and as the name suggests, we're going beyond the megawatt there. Well, that's the next step.
And some final
So
thoughts on that one from you, Istvan?
no, no. So EV hubs, we are very big in the traditional fleet business, both in commercial fleets and commercial road transport. This is electrifying with a strong speed, and EV hubs, so B2B EV hubs, will be uh, very important on that journey. And again, this collaboration between Shell and ABB will be helping, I guess, to optimize that, because there will be a huge infrastructure development in the area is needed. I mean, the general comment I would say that, look, I mean, we built the mobility supply chain in over 100 years, and it is again, a simpler supply chain. A liquid fuel, you produce, you take it from A to B, you store it from a depot, you take it to a service station, and you operate. Compared to that, this mobility supply chain that we are building need even more partnership, of course, far more digital capabilities in that, and therefore it is going to take time. So therefore, we rather get up to speed quickly. That's our decision, and learn from doing it, and learn from the customers. Because the most important piece for me, people talk about energy companies, talk about technology companies, the government, and everybody, but at the end of the day, the real decision maker will be the customer. The customer shows you when they like it. Fulham is a great example. We didn't know that. We even showed it to people, and some people said, "Yeah, why would anybody want that? They want to charge at home or at the lamppost." And still, this is the biggest success. So follow the customers, because I tell you, I learned in 35 years, customers and taxpayers can pay for things, not government companies, because we're just basically making the money if the customer is happy.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, I'm going to have to draw this discussion to a close. I feel we could go on for a lot longer. Apologies if I haven't been able to put your question to these two, but Frank and Istvan, thank you so much for joining me to talk about some of the challenges that we face, but also the ways that you're working to overcome those. Thanks very much, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank
Goodbye.
you.
Jeannie, thanks. Take care. Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.